Morning, everyone. Just wanted to let you know we'll wait another 2 to 3 minutes to see if any more people are late in attending, and then we'll start with our session about Tableau Prep in the wild. So just another 2 more minutes. Let people join, set their audio, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think that's about everyone that really wants to join, and if they join in later, I guess I'll just have to pick up the story from all of us. First of all, thank you all very much for joining this session. And let's see if I can teach you a little bit about Tableau Prep in the wild. What is Tableau Prep? Let me first start by asking you all the question, which is about Tableau Prep Builder. How often have you used Tableau Prep Builder? Who of you know more about it? So the answer is already coming in. Some people have never used Tableau Prep, so this will be definitely a good introduction to Tableau Prep. Some of you have used it a few times. No one uses it on a daily basis so far, which I can imagine. But for every you who've never used it, I will definitely show you some layout and looks and what can you expect of Tableau. For those of you who've used it before, we'll go into a little bit more detail about what else can you use Tableau for and why would Tableau Prep Builder be of use to your company further. So as you can see, there's very mixed results. So today what I want to share with you is about the Tableau Prep within the Tableau landscape. Where is Prep Builder located? I'm going to talk a little bit more about the data landscape because Prep works a lot with data. What is the data landscape at the moment? How do I see the data landscape and how do I see it changing? I will talk a little bit about pre-Prep Builder use case. It was a use case at a company that I worked at that did not have Prep Builder because it didn't exist yet. We're having trouble with some data sources. What were the obstacles and how could Prep have helped me? And I will also show a use case where Prep Builder can be used to solve a data source problem. And I will also show that workflow. So first of all, let me show a little bit about the information lab. For those of you who do not know, we're based in 7 countries throughout Europe. We have a lot of customers. We also have in the UK what's called the Data School, in Germany the Data Academy. If you want to learn more about the Academy, you can. Someone says, please share screen. Am I not sharing my screen? Should be. My apologies, you haven't seen my screen yet, apparently. So the agenda for today, thank you for that comment, is we'll talk about Prep within the Tableau landscape, about the data landscape in general, some use case, and I will show you an actual workflow. The information lab itself, we're based in 7 countries. We have the data school and the data academy. If you want to learn more about those, you can reach out and ask questions. I've had some Tableau Zen Masters working at the information lab, and also some Alteryx aces, as we also do Alteryx work. We have a lot of certified trainers and a lot of specialists on Tableau and on Alteryx. Just a little bit about our side. Now, about Tableau Prep, you may have seen this landscape of Tableau before. If not, this is what Tableau calls their Tableau landscape. We have data sources, which can be service-based, or they can be called Tableau data files. There's also certain files like Excels, CSVs, could be cloud-based and web. Normally we use definitely Tableau desktop to create the reports. Here you can also work on your data source. But I want to talk more about Tableau Prep in this case, where Tableau Prep allows you to create data sources for Tableau desktop to work on. You can also publish those data sources on the Tableau servers, on the online platforms, for users with licenses online to work with, or with the Tableau desktop. So in this case, we're talking about the Tableau Prep. And for those of you who haven't seen Tableau Prep yet, and there are a few of you around, this is what Tableau Prep would look like. It's very similar to the Tableau desktop setup. When you first open it up, I can make a connection to a file or to a server. And here is, for instance, an example of what Prep looks like. Some of you may have already had some experience with what's called ETL tools or data flows. Tableau always uses visual cues throughout desktop, but also in Prep Builder. So I can see I'm going from left to right to my output. I have a lot of information ready to use as a user reading the flow. I have my input data. If I click on it, I can already see a sample. If I go to the next step, I can actually see what's in this file. What do I have? In this case, this is fictional data about 2 stores. They are selling soaps pre and post Valentine. As you can see, there are some changes made from the original file. I can open that. There's a calculated field, which I could edit. And here we have some logic. It's very similar to what you may have experienced in Tableau desktop, a calculated field. In this case, I can go further. I can join this data. I can create a summation. I can actually already give notes. As you might be able to see at this place, there's a little note I can expand, and it's telling me, giving me a little bit more information about what's happening. So this is more of a very short introduction about what does Prep look like, because we'll be talking more about it. What's the use of Prep? And I will show you a more in detail example. But in this case, I want you to know this is what Prep looks like. It allows me to manipulate my data, to transfer my data, and it allows me to create and load an output, so to speak. That's very short. What is Tableau Prep? What does it look like? So I want to talk about the landscape of data at the moment as well. Besides just the Tableau landscape, I want to talk about the data landscape. ETL, the extract, transfer, and load. At the moment, that's where data comes from a lot of companies. And a lot of companies see this as separate from the reporting side of data, separate from the business. It's more, as I put it on the left-hand side, it's the IT or developers that are in charge of the ETL. They are the data providers, often work project-based, either Kanban, sprints, or complete development. But it's separate from the users of the data, where there are business analysts, business users that would like to have the results now. And there's, in my opinion, a very gap between those parts. And this is where Prep Builder allows business users to extract their data, transfer the data, and load the data separate from IT and separate from developers to have quick results in a neat and tidy way. So Tableau Prep steps into the gap between ETL from the IT side and the business analyst that's using data. We as people and as companies need to move away from the idea that IT is data, that data is always an IT problem, always an IT solution, because actually the business knows more about the data. And because they know more about the data, they should be the persons working with that data, and they can help IT to learn more about that data. The business also wants to have more influence on data. And many more companies that I come at, I see the questions from business saying, you give me this report, but actually I want to dive into the data. I want to know more about this. I want to play around with the data myself. I want to have a result now versus the long-term stability that IT often wants. IT, and rightly so, wants to create something that is stable and works for the entire generation, for the long-term future, while the business actually usually wants results now. So Tableau Prep will allow you to have results now, gives the business more influence, working hand in hand with IT actually. So at the moment, what often happens is within the reporting department or an analyst department, there might be a few analysts that know how to program, how to work with Python, with R, with Excel, creating queries that will definitely provide quick solutions, but they might be a little bit what I call the dirty solutions. They're not sustainable in the long run. They do get your result now, but if you want to maintain them, it's a lot of work. This is where Prep Builder allows you to be neat and tidy. You just saw it very briefly. There's a flow going there with the data. You can actually see what's happening. It allows the business to build this, and I will show you why it allows the business to build this. But I do want you to be aware that it's not an ETL powerhouse. If you have an ETL solution such as Informatica already in place, Prep Builder will not be the program that is gonna change that. It is not a replacement of these powerhouses, of these sturdy solutions, but it is a solution that allows a short-term result. It's more stable than building these crazy Excels or crazy queries that are unsustainable in the long run. So I will show you a little bit about a use case where I could have definitely benefited from a program such as Prep Builder. I worked for a business which was a subscription-based model. They were selling subscriptions, and they had millions of customers each month. There were customers coming in, customers going out every month. They had a lot of different dashboards with a lot of different data sources. I will quickly show you just an inkling of what some of these data sources would look like. We would have a SQL query, which was joined on another SQL query, which would have in that query more joins with more tables. We would have a query that was actually based on a 3-step stored procedure, which was maintained by one person who ran this from his desktop. So if he was on holiday, we wouldn't be able to work with this, or at least not update the information. there was SQL including filtering. If you open this, you would not know, am I looking at tables? Am I looking at queries? I need to understand language. For me, it was terrible to start with, but maintainable for now, until the business decided to create a new database model. If you create a new database model, these type of queries have to rebuild, which is a lot of work. So we decided to work together with IT from the reporting department they would build the data warehouse, the new database model, based on the input that we would need for reporting. They would work in 3-week sprints. So we would have to give them a lot of input. They would start building, and after 3 weeks, they would give us a result. Our goal was to simplify those queries as well, to go from millions of rows per month to 1 row for 1 month. So I show you the old example again. This is just a very crude simplification, going from a lot of SQL queries going to 1 table. Now, IT was building, and they were waiting on our input. So we had to provide that input. They would build technical sound solutions. But sometimes those technical sound solutions do not make business sense. So there was some back and forth in that. They would provide us with updates every 3 weeks. There would be a new release. We would only be able to test the new release after 3 weeks because there was a new data warehouse, so we couldn't test with test data. We had to look at actual outcome. After those 3 weeks, we would test it. Something might be wrong, but they already started with their new sprint. So it would take another 3 weeks before those new test results were taken into account. So as you can see, this part is where it really got stuck. We would be testing the data, giving feedback, and that loop would be continuous and very, very slow. If we were to use Prep Builder in this case, and if we had used Prep Builder in this case, the reporting users, such as myself, would have been able to find mistakes more quickly, would have been able to build our own logic first with the business logic, create a very robust development, because we would be able to provide IT with ready solutions. And the business can already start the output before it is part of the data warehouse, because you can already start building on the output with your reporting. So business can have the results quicker. IT has more robust development, and the overall back and forth is a lot shorter. This is something where, in my opinion, Prep Builder really, really shines. Another part where Prep Builder really, really shines is the difference between creating a data source or creating new data ETL processes. I need to have knowledge about data at the moment. I need to know coding. I don't know if any of you have ever used this type of coding before. I need to be able to set up drivers and connections. I need to be able to read and write my tables. But with Prep, actually, I don't need that much coding. I need to know logic, yes, and I will show you that logic in a little bit. But I do need knowledge about data, but I don't need to know coding. So that's taken off the table. I don't need to set up drivers and connections. Tableau does that for me. I don't need this type of stuff. And more importantly, and this is something that a lot of people from IT will probably enjoy, I don't need read and write rights. I just need to read access to the data, and I don't need to write any tables. I don't need to write my data away. And this is something that in a lot of IT departments is something they don't want to give their business users the ability to write information into the database straight away, because it might change things. So in this case, all of that is taken away. I just want to ask you a short question. about your companies and about the data sources which are used by Tableau. How are they managed at the moment? At the moment, there's a little bit 50-50. Although I can see it's swinging towards more the data can be created throughout. Okay, I will close the poll in a few seconds. Most companies have the data sources that can be created throughout the organization. So I would definitely say that if this is the case, Prep Builder will definitely help you, so people can create more robust data sources. And it might also help you to have those organizations where data sources are very centrally managed, that you can at least have end user input on your data sources in this way. I will share another use case, because this was a use case where I did not have Prep Builder, and where Prep Builder could have helped me a lot, decreasing the time of development. Oh, I should stop there. Decrease the time of development and create a better result, which made a lot more data sense. Now, I will show you a use case where I have used Prep Builder and where it helped me a lot. So the use case for this, I have a data source, but it doesn't answer the question of the end user. The end user asked me, hey, I have this information, but it's not right for me. And the original data structure is unable to change. So I cannot change anything in the data warehousing. I know that there's two solutions possible. One would be Tableau Desktop, and the other would be Tableau Prep Builder. So I will show you also the Tableau Desktop solution, and then I will talk about the Tableau Prep Builder solution. Talk a little bit about the data. The data source, this is overly simplified, of course, but on a certain date for a location, for a certain product, I have an amount going in or an amount going out. And the end of month is only for the latest month for a location and a product has a value, which is what is left in the warehouse. Every time a new date is added, which is a new end of month, basically, the information will change. So I cannot change this, cool. So the information will change. So in this case, on 27/09/2019, the location, product one has an end of month 560. If I would add a new date, that 560 would be set to 0, and a new row would be added. Not ideal, I know, but this is how the data source was already, the data in the source was already created. Just some technical glitches. What would I need? Actually, the question was, I actually want to know the start of the month. I want to know for every date, every location, every product, at the start of that month, at the start of that date, how much was left in the warehouse. So actually, it's sort of a calculation backwards, going from the end of the month back to the start of the month. And the start of the month will have multiple values, not just for the latest added date, but for all of them. So what's the information that I would be needing? On the 9th, I would do end of month minus the amount of the 9th month, which is pretty simple. But on the 8th, I would use the end of month value minus the amount of the 9th month plus the amount of the 8th month, etc., 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 which would give me the result of at 09, this 2709, I would have 560 minus 30. And at 08, I would have 560 minus 130 plus 120. etc., etc., etc. And every month, I would also need the end of month per location to do my calculation. So my Tableau desktop option, it would actually require an exclude level of detail calculation and a lookup calculation. And just before we start in this, let me just ask you, what is the highest Tableau training that you participated in? Desktop 2 also includes a combination of 1 and 2. If you have participated in anything higher than desktop 3, such as visual analytics or server, I'm not taking those into account at the moment. It's a pretty different. Let me just give 2 more seconds. I will close the poll. So this is a fairly, most of you have done something. Some of you have never participated in any Tableau training. Some of you have done desktop 1. Very few of you have done desktop 3. No one has done desktop prep yet. And a few of you have done desktop 1 and 2. So for those of you who have done desktop 3, the next will be make a little bit more sense. So I had an exclude level of detail. This is a type of calculation that does not take into account the date, and I want to have the sum of end of month. And I also had my own handmade table calculation with a lookup for a window sum. This was my desktop solution, which is okay. It's difficult to just hand over to most people, specifically definitely a business user. They would not be able to maintain this, and it's also slowing down your dashboard if you have millions of rows with millions of data points. So in my opinion, yes, this gets the job done, but it's not an ideal solution. This is what I could be doing in prep. I can do the exact same thing. I could build it in prep and have a new data source instead of working with, in my opinion, pretty difficult table calculations, manually made table calculations and exclude. And I will also open it now in Prep Builder, and I will go through the Prep Builder, all the steps, and see why we made certain decisions. So I will go to my Prep Builder. We remember this layout, and I will open my file, which is the whole flow. I'll see if I can manage it. Yep, there we go. So I'll make a connection with my Excel. I always make an extra step, which you can do with the plus sign. You can insert a step, and then I can have a look at how my data looks like. So I know exactly 2 things. This middle field will tell you what values can you expect in a certain column. And you have the exact same visual cues as Tableau Desktop normally have. So here I have a numeric value. Here I will have string values. Here at the date I will have column. I will have date values. At the bottom, I have the file completely explained to me. So I know exactly, amount 80, location 1, product 1, 0804. And I also, you may have noticed, every time I click, there's something highlighted, which is values that are similar or the same. So this is all of product 1. These are all my dates with 04 2019. These are all my zeros, etc. Here I could already start filtering my calculation. There's a lot of options that I have. I can filter, group and replace. These are all things I will not mention them, but I won't show all of them. There's a lot of options. I can create my calculated field, can duplicate them, or I can remove fields altogether. So this is definitely part of the ETL process. First, what I did is calculate the end of month per location and product, which is sort of my fixed/exclude LOD. So in this case, I created a summation, which is the aggregate function here, add aggregate, which will add this step. I will choose the groups that I want to make. I can select them from the left-hand side. I want a group per location and per product, and I want a summation of end of month because I know they're always either 0 or filled. So this is, I could show you as well, insert a step. So now I know I have location 1, product 1 with a 560. This is exactly what I needed. I have the famous undo in Tableau, and I already created a little bit of a text here where I double click to explain to other users what's happening. Here we calculate the max end of month per location and product. So I'm already explaining to someone else who would open the flow what's happening and why am I doing this step. Now here comes a little bit of a trick. To know how much values have gone in and out, I need to join all of the data of, for instance, 0804 with all of the data that happened before. Because remember, we're working backwards. So working backwards through time. So I need to know at 04, 2019 for location 1, product 1, that in the months before, because I only have my end of month at the month before, what changes have happened. So what I would do in prep, I will duplicate my data. This is nothing more than an extra step, which I also call the duplication of data. And I join this duplication on itself. So I'm adding a lot more rows to this. I can, on the left-hand side, select what my join looks like. And this looks very similar to Tableau Desktop. So there are AND statements. So location needs to be similar, and product needs to be similar, and the date needs to be less or equal to my date on the right-hand side. I can select my join type, and I can already see a summary that I will have more rows than I started with, which is fine. That's what I want. Here I know it's blue and green. This is blue and this is my green. And I can also go my join result, and you may have already noticed this is date blue and this is date from the green hand side. So I know exactly what is happening in every step, what the outcome is, and I can check the outcome and if it's the desired outcome. So this is, I think, a very powerful feature of Tableau Prep, that every time I do something, I can immediately see what is happening, what it's doing, and if that's the wanted result. If not, I can make changes. In this case, I know that 08, that the 0804, let me just drag this up a little bit to the left. I have a date and have another date, and I have the amount to use in running sum. So these are the amounts that I will be summing. So we'll create actually a running sum, because I know that on location 1, product 1, 0804, I need this to be summed. Let me just go back and explain it again. I have 0804, I just need this to be a little bit higher. And you can see that 0804 has multiple rows suddenly, because I have 0804, which is the original. I have also have 1805, 2806, and 0707, and even 1708 and 2709. So these are all values, 130, etc. So here, what I've done is, I'll go back to my slide. what I've done is I've joined the data from, let me just see if I can find a pointer. Spotlight. No, I'm very sorry, it's giving me a little bit of a, so what I've done in my data, I've actually, on the row 0804 2019, I've joined all of the data that had the similar location, a similar product, but the date could be either 0804 itself or later on. So it could be 1805, and that way I can calculate all of the amounts together, and I will be able to subtract that from my end of month to calculate the beginning of the month. So that's what I've been doing there. Here I will create my running sum. I'll actually let Tableau know I'll be grouping by location and by product, but also by date. And it will create the amount to use in a running sum. Because this is my aggregation, it could be a sum. I could also average, count distinct, etc. In this case, I want to have the sum. Now the running sum, here, amount to use in running sum. I made a typo, as you may have noticed. In this case, I've renamed the field from running sum to correct running sum. Now I've joined this result of my running sum with my fixed or my exclude LOD. I've joined on location and product. So every location and product, so that means that every date will have the same end of month value, which is for product 1, location 1, 560, and 610 for all of location 2, product 2 dates. So I'm almost ready to go to my end result. It's where I've created a calculated field, which is called, I'll open it. I called it start of month, where I've taken the result from end of month minus the amount to use in running sum. I've removed the field amount to use in running sum from my end result, and I've removed end of month as my end result. I can select an output. I can already see what my output would look like, which is location 1, product 1 on 1708 would have the start of month 310. I can either save it to a file, and I can browse and I can select where it needs to be, or I can publish it as a data source, where I can select a server, I would sign in, and I can actually go and put it online for everyone to use. So as you can see, it was a pretty complex calculation in Tableau Desktop, which would actually also slow down Tableau Desktop towards a flow that, when you know data and understand data, you will be able to recreate this. And it actually will create one file, no data calculation needed in Tableau itself, no date calculations needed in Tableau. So for me, this is where Tableau Prep shines. I've created this. I've run into some issues. I've done some joins incorrectly in the beginning. I was able to see the end result, fix the join. I could actually, with this flow, go to IT, and I will be able to tell them, I need you to build this in the data warehouse. But in the meantime, I can actually already show this to my end users. They can already start making business decisions based on this information, whilst IT is building it within their actual ETL process. So for me, this is definitely one of the higher points of where Tableau shines. I would just want to ask you a very quick question before we wrap up the session. I'm just curious, when you are building data sources in your company, are you dependent on other departments? We'll close this in another few seconds. So everybody is at least at some point dependent on another department. No one is never dependent on another department. So in my opinion, if you're dependent on another department, it might be IT, it might be the business, using something like Tableau Prep helps you at the one hand working together with the business. I can sit down with business users and build a workflow together because they can see the steps, they can see the end results, and they can tell me if it makes sense. And if I'm dependent on IT and they're working on other products, on other processes, I can start building, take some of the testing or some of the pre-exercises away from them and start building myself, show them what I need, and I will be better able to explain what I need. And I can also tell them about common pitfalls. Oh yeah, don't forget, if this data exists, you need to fix it by cleaning it in this manner. So for me, that's definitely where Prep Builder is shining. I think we can have a little bit of time for Q&A for whoever wants some more questions. Heidi, I don't know what would be the best option for that. Heidi is my co-host, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I think you should have an overview of the questions. Can you see all the questions?
One was share a screen.
Okay, we did have a second question in between, but I think the participant dropped out.
Can all processes and functions in Prep be reproduced in SQL queries? Thinking is to use Prep to check my requirements, then forward this to IT to implement in the database. Very good question from Tim Beard. I don't know. Yeah, he's still there. I would say a lot, yes. I've not been able to create a stored procedure, for instance, and there's definitely a few things that you cannot do in Prep. So it won't be able to say everything you can do in SQL you can do in Prep. Anything you can do in an ETL powerhouse such as Informatica or something else can be done in Prep or Alteryx. But a lot, yes, you can join, you can do the most basic things such as create calculations. You can actually reuse those calculations as well. So I would say for me, it definitely helps to, as a business user, to use this instead of a SQL, and then go and sit with IT and explain them, this is what I need. I'm lucky that I know about SQL, so I can make that connection with what I'm doing in Prep to SQL. But I think if you sit down with IT and you don't know SQL, but you know Tableau and Tableau Prep Builder, sitting down with IT, explaining what you're doing, they can make the translation to SQL. And I definitely think it's a good way to check your requirements because, as I said, you can check the results in between what's happening. So yeah, for me, that's definitely something that I would use it as and sit down with IT. So I hope that answers your question. If not, just shout back at me. My team is doing all cleaning. This is from Pasavara. If I mispronounce it, I'm very sorry. Goni, my team is doing all clean and ETL part in HANA and Informatica. I'm trying to convince to use Prep, any use case which is handy to share and convince. Like I said, it's not really a replacement for something like Informatica or HANA because those are proper ETL tools. This is, for me, but this is maybe my personal view. I would say this is a light version where business users that don't need to know programming, that don't want to know programming languages, and the setup, but do know about data, and specifically they know about their data and they know what their end result should look like. They can use this and then work together with whoever is building the ETL, the more solid ETL, even though this is already very neat, tidy, and solid in Prep Builder. It's just not the sturdy powerhouse that other ETL tools are. This is the in-between case. So yeah, if you want, we can reach out to you and share some use cases where Prep shines, but we'll do that after the session if that's okay. We have another from Torsten Georgi. Is it possible to build MAT in this way? I'm not sure what you mean by MAT or MAT. What do you mean by MAT, Torsten? Could you tell me? Let me just reach out. I think that would be a chat thing. I've just asked Torsten if he can explain what he means by MAT. The last 12 months rolling. So what Torsten would like to know is it possible to build the last 12 months rolling in Prep Builder? Using logic, definitely. I would say you can use a lot of date functions that you can use. So I will open Tableau Prep. If you have, for instance, your data file which has dates, as we have here, I could click it and I could create a calculated field. And I actually can do, for instance, a date diff calculation using today, going 12 months back, using the month from today, and making sure that it's 12 months back using date diff. So yeah, that's definitely an option. I think it's a very good option to use for Tableau Prep because you build your data set. So I hope I've answered your question. Thank you for your question. We have another question from Robert S., which is about Alteryx or Tableau Prep. What are the main advantages of one over the other based on your experience if you have already worked with Alteryx? Yes, I've worked with Alteryx and I've worked with Prep. I would say, so Tableau Prep is to build for Tableau. So building data sources. If you can see, if I choose my output file here, I can select a Tableau Hyper, a Tableau Data Extract, and a CSV. So very limited for other programs to use. So it's definitely a Tableau product for Tableau. Alteryx, my colleague sometimes says, Alteryx is like a tank and Prep would be a gun. So it depends, do you need a tank, which is Alteryx, which can create user interface apps. It can create apps that work together with other apps, and it's writing into other databases. So it's a very, very sturdy, powerful tool. So that, for me, Alteryx is, if you want to do complex, big flows that to web scraping, allow user interface, read and write, Alteryx. If I want to have my business user to work with data and build data sources and empower some of those business users to create the data sources, Tableau Prep is a lot more user-friendly, because as you can see, I don't have any of those difficult things on top that Altries have, where you need to drag and drop a lot, need to know what you're doing, you need to know a lot more about what the data is, whilst Prep is more friendly version that might be the step up towards Alteryx. So I hope that answers your question. Jan Hoed asks, would you agree that the preferred ETL solutions remains an actual database server when available? Yes, I would definitely agree with that, Jan. So, like I said before, this is a lighter version of an ETL tool. It allows more business users to have an influence. It will shorten your development time in the perspective of the business user, because they have quick results. It will shorten the development time for IT because common pitfalls, data mistakes are already cleared by business or the Tableau Prep Builder user. But you still need a bigger and more solid ETL solutions. This is also not meant as the ETL solution for the future, because as I said, this is by Tableau for Tableau. If you use anything else, if you want to have the output stored somewhere else than in a Tableau, you would need a tool that can actually write to another tool. So I hope that answers your question, Jan. I definitely agree. I think that's all of the questions so far. Oh, there's someone else coming in. Okay, Jan. Yeah, Jan says we are aligned. Lara Wiedenman asked a question. Hi, Daan. When I update my data and prep, will they be updated automatically in the extract I am using in desktop? Depends which extract you're using in the desktop. So in my output file, I have to either save it as a file, which could be a hyper, and if your desktop is actually based on that hyper, yes, it will automatically update. If it is on the server or the desktop is using a different data source, then no. So you will need to write your output. You can also, on server, once you've published your flow, you can, same as extracts, you can actually set the schedule to run the Tableau Prep Builder flow. That is called Prep Conductor, which is another add-on on Tableau server, which you would need to purchase, which would allow you to run and set timings for your flow, which will automatically update your extracts, which will automatically update your dashboard. So it would work the same way as running the extracts flow, but in this case, you would run the flow of Tableau Prep, but you would need definitely another add-on. So I hope that answers your questions, Lara. I think we are nearing our end. If there are no more questions, there is. Tim Beertjes, thank you. No worries, Tim. You're very welcome. There was one question that I wanted to ask, just as I'm curious, who of you, I've just talked very shortly about Prep Conductor, who of you are using Prep Conductor at the moment? Very few are. Some of you are using it, some of you are not. So Prep Conductor, I'll share those results. As you can see, very few are using Prep Conductor at the moment. This allows you to set your flows, run them as you would extracts. So for me, if you want to use the full power of Tableau Prep Builder, you would also invest in Tableau Prep Conductor, so your end users don't have to press the button themselves, but it just runs automatically. It's not dependent on if someone is actually at work. It just adds a lot of added value. But it's good to know that some people of you are using Prep Conductor, and I hope that you who are using it are seeing the value. That's it for me. Thank you all for your attention and for participating in the questions. Hoping you learned a little bit, hoping I've been able to share my insights of where Prep stands and Prep Builder stands, and how you can definitely use Prep in my opinion, in any business to improve your ETL process, add business value. Thank you very much for all your attention.